Hey everybody, Coach Sean, Rip Grandpa, back for part two. And a follow-up from yesterday's video that I posted on YouTube. Is the war on carbs over? And I kind of started comparing the sugar diet versus carnivore, keto, and other low-carb diets. And the reason that I was so drawn to this high sugar, high carb diet for rapid fat loss is because it rhymes very closely in certain areas with my Rip Grandpa carb cycling. So because of the title of my video yesterday and the sugar diet being a mosquito buzzing around the internet, it pushed out to some new people who subscribed and commented. So thank you, welcome to the channel. And if you're doing the sugar diet, or maybe you're doing low carb keto, or maybe you've done both, whatever it is, please let's get the conversation going in the comments. Let us know how it's working for you, the differences that you feel. Do you like low carb better than the high sugar diet or not? So most people that go from the low carb to this see explosive results because their insulin sensitivity skyrockets. So I share this with you to let you know too as well that my experience with carb cycling has kept me lean for almost, I think, 25 years now. And so here's an example of me from 40 to 50 years old, 40, 44, or 41, 44, 46, 48, and here I am at 50 years old. I don't share these pictures to impress you, just to impress upon you. I'm an OG. I've sold over 1 million fitness ebooks. I've been a C-level executive for 2 9-figure health companies, so I do know my shit. So with that being said, in this video, let's talk about this. Is the high carb sugar diet legit, and can it bust through your plateau, aka stall city, or get you peeled? We'll talk about a different approach based on if you have 30 plus pounds to lose versus when you're leaner, because there is going to be a couple very important differences I'll share here in a second. The next thing I'm going to share is how keto, carnivore, and low carb can potentially be more harmful than good. And we'll kind of do another little mini comparison of sugar fasting versus keto or carnivore or other low carb diets. And these reasons are going to shock you. This is especially prevalent if you're over 40, 50, and 60 because of the hormonal decline that takes place. And then number 3, we'll go ahead and share what my wife Karen and I are doing by kind of mixing in a carb cycling version of this sugar diet and what our weekly split's going to be. Now, before we move forward, what is the sugar diet? What does it do to your body? And I want to give a shout out to Cole Robinson. I've nicknamed him the Screamer because all he does is scream at you and call you fat in his videos. But I do love his passion. I respect him for coming up with this philosophy. It makes sense to me because basically what you're doing is sugar is very, very high during the day. Fat is in the basement at all times, and then protein is very limited until at night. So you're basically following a very high fruit, high sugar diet during the day, and then at night, you can go ahead and bring in moderate amounts of lean protein. But fats are always going to be in the basement. So his philosophy and his claim that has not really been substantiated scientifically, but it's definitely substantiated by the people that he's working with, especially obese people doing sugar water fast, just sugar water. And he's reversing their type 2 diabetes and they're losing like 100 pounds. Now, if you're more active and leaner like myself, there's definitely some differences here. You're not going to want to do that. And I'll share that in a second. But with that being said, I respect the man for what he's come up with, but everything right now is anecdotal. Now, I'm sure as this catches wind, because I consider this like the Bitcoin of fat loss right now. It's a new mosquito, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to buzz, 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 and I think it's going to get very, very big. I could be wrong. Now, with that being said, Mark Smelly Bell is another guy that was hardcore carnivore. He switched to this diet a couple months ago. He's eaten upwards of 300, 400, 500, maybe even 600 grams of carbs a day, and he's actually getting leaner during the process. And this is a guy who is a huge carnivore advocate. So I just want a quick shout out to both of them guys. And so what does this diet do? Well, basically, when you just feed your body pure sugar in the absence of fats and protein, okay, your body's BMR rises, your basal metabolic rises, and your body runs hotter, and your energy skyrockets. And of course, this increases your performance and the amount you want to move automatically without you even knowing it. So your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, does go up and cortisol tanks. And I can tell you, I did this yesterday and I had my best sleep score that I've had in months. I was blown away at how good I slept. I ate nothing but fruit all day long yesterday. I broke my fast with a lean source of protein. My wife cooked up some shrimp fried rice, 0 fat, butter, or oil in it, right? Because shrimp is and scallops both are just like 0 fat, pure protein sources with that pure white starch. Now, if you're on the heavier side, you're going to want to stay away from the starches. I'll share more on this in a second. And you're going to want to stick with more of the fast acting fruits and literally like table sugar. Now, If we look at how this works, okay, hunger will also theoretically decrease. And even if it doesn't, it's okay. You just eat more fruit. And so what ends up happening is you have a hormone inside your body that in the absence of these fats and protein early in the day, it's called FGF21, it skyrockets. And apparently, brand new to me, I know a ton about hormones. I'm huge on hormones. This is a brand new one to me. So fibroblast growth factor 21, and it plays a crucial role, this is straight from Google, by the way, regulating energy homeostasis and glucose and lipid metabolism. So it's primarily produced in the liver. In other words, it acts on various tissues, including brain, adipose tissue, which is stored body fat, liver, heart, and skeletal muscle, and has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity and reduce fat mass and lower blood sugar levels in animal models. So again, we need more human studies, but just a quick sidebar, I mentioned this yesterday, how doing extended periods of low-carb dieting can desensitize your cells to glucose, and this ultimately ends up leading to more insulin resistance, or I should say decreasing your insulin sensitivity, right? So the very thing that we do low carb for, which is to avoid insulin resistance, over time can backfire on us and actually lead to the very thing that we're trying to prevent. And if you think about it logically, this makes sense. And if you want more detail on how your body works when those carbs come into your body after being on a low carb diet for an extended period of time, I share more on that in yesterday's video. You can go check that out after this. So for context, right, on sugar for fuel, the first thing I want to do is I want to mention that people will say, well, you know, there's a huge difference between 1,200 calories and Twinkies and Doritos and Oreos like the Twinkie guy did. I think his name was Mark Hobb. He was a professor. And 1,200 calories and high quality nutrients. Well, yeah, the way that it treats your body is differently, but from a calorie in, calorie out perspective, your body doesn't see it any differently. So if it's the same amount of calories, at the end of the day, if you're burning off more than you're taking in, theoretically, you will lose body weight. Now, some factors can come into play here, especially with women. They're like Rubik's Cubes, where men are like one-cell amoebas. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. I just want to share that the Twinkie diet is proof that belly fat is 10 times more dangerous than sugar. And the reason why is when he did this diet, he had one protein shake a day. Because the first argument I had, well, how much of that 30 plus pounds that he lost was muscle? But because he was going out of his way to get extra protein every day, most of this fat was fat loss. And if we look at what he did, he figured out his BMR, which I think, or his TDEE, right, his total daily energy expenditure. And I think it was around 2,600, and he was consuming 1,800 a day. So he's in this 500 to 700 calorie deficit every single day, eating nothing but crap food. Twinkies, Doritos, and I think Oreos and some gas station treats were his staples. Now you would think after he lost all this weight that his blood work would look terrible because of the terrible food he ate, but it didn't. All his markers improved: cholesterol, triglycerides, blood pressure, blood sugar, and obviously the weight loss. Goes to show that belly fat itself is 10 times more dangerous than eating sugar. Now, if we logically think about this, guys, olive oil and fruit juice are extracted from olives and fruits. Well, sugar is just extracted from cane sugar and sugar beets. So, and our body loves to run on glucose. I talked about this yesterday as well. I mean, if we don't have glucose present in the bloodstream like keto, carnivore, or ultra low carb, and you're just feeding off of ketones consistently, you end up eating a lot of protein. And most people that think they're doing a keto diet, 70% plus fats, aren't doing a keto diet. They're just doing a really, really super high protein, low carb diet that has more fats in it. Now, with that being said, when you think about this from this perspective, right, all we're doing is we're just burning a different fuel source. And when you ignore glucose in your diet and completely eliminate it, your body converts protein into glucose because your body wants to burn glucose. Again, talk more about that in yesterday's videos. So now a side note, at the end of this video, I'll recap on 3 real-world examples that will blow your mind that prove and confirm once and for all carbs are not responsible for obesity and diseases. I shared these yesterday, so if you stay till the end and you didn't watch yesterday's video, stick around for that. Now, here's the truth about dieting. Any diet can work. Any diet that you do can work. I mean, the Twinkie diet is living proof of that, right? Any diet. But here are the 5 things that you're going to need in place for any diet to work. And it's my Rip Grandpa Quest formula, spelled CWESP. Sounds like Quest, just spelled differently. So if we look at this, We have a calorie deficit, got to burn off more than you take in, got to have adequate water, got to exercise if you want to live longer and leaner, right? Preferably weight training, because that's what's going to help you gain muscle and increase your daily energy expenditure more than anything else, and your BMR more than anything else is gaining muscle. Cardio can contribute towards it, but it's not going to be as powerful as gaining muscle, because only 5 to 15% of your total daily energy expenditure is from exercise. The rest is from your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. Well, the thing that increases BMR is muscle. So you want to lift weights. Adequate sleep, obviously 7 to 8 hours a night, trying to go to sleep and wake up at the same time. And then adequate protein. Now this one's going to be up for debate based on what Cole is currently saying on this diet. And I'm going to be very careful in making sure that I hit 150 grams of protein every single day on this, but I'm going to start experimenting with 2 days a week where I'm going to do a fruit-only fast. And then on the weekends, what I'll do is I'll probably have a couple flex days. I'll share this in a second, where I'll just make sure protein is really, really high as well. But here's the problem with keto, carnivore, and low carb. Okay, problem number 1 and number 2 is hormones. So your thyroid and leptin hormones decline rapidly after a couple weeks, and that leads to metabolic slowdown. Now, if we look at these studies, I'm going to move this one down. This study right here shows, got 3 of them right in a row. And again, anybody can cherry pick a study to support their bias in their claim. So I will say that somebody could probably go find, cherry pick a study that would go to the exact opposite of what I'm sharing here. But this is how I've lived with abs for the last 20 plus years. So I think there's some anecdotal evidence that backs up these studies. So number 1, you can see here that low carb diets induce metabolic depression. This is metabolic slowdown. And this happens because when you eliminate glucose from your diet, your body has a very hard time, and it cannot convert T4 to T3 in the liver. This is the active form of your thyroid hormones your body's cells can receive and use, and every cell inside your body has a receptor for thyroid hormones, and thyroid hormones themselves are a glycoprotein. And that means they need glucose to convert T4 to T3. And of course, thyroid and leptin work together to regulate your body weight, control the speed of your metabolism, and your body temperature. So when you eliminate glucose, you're down-regulating thyroid and leptin hormones. And if you don't refeed every weekend and get some carbs into your diet the right way, this can lead to a metabolic nightmare and, of course, desensitize your cells to glucose, like I mentioned earlier. Also, carbs help your body with testosterone production, and they're very protein sparing. So theoretically, what Cole is saying about not needing as much protein could potentially make a lot of sense, because in the presence of these much higher carbs, you probably don't need as much protein. Stay tuned on that. I'm going to keep reporting on this. And then, of course, your thyroid hormones decline rapidly just after 2 weeks. Now, and you can overfeed on carbs on the weekend and reset those leptin and thyroid hormones. So this is why I was always a fan of what I call deplete days during the week, where I would put carbs right in the basement, Monday through Friday, like less than 30 to 40 grams of impact carbs. And the ones I would have would be a little bit of fruit or maybe a little bit of starch pre or post workout, just to have that performance and energy support during the week. And then, of course, this down regulates my hormones and my metabolic rate Monday through Friday, because I'm in a deficit. I'm keeping carbs really, really low. And then I refeed every weekend. This caters to our social life. We're way more likely to eat carbs, allows for a little bit of leeway on a cheat meal. So this is the kind of lifestyle I've used forever. And so this sugar diet really, really intrigued me, because I've always been a huge fan of fats up, carbs down, carbs up, fats down. Always protein in my world for now, right now. But that is a huge philosophy that I've lived for 25 plus years. Is anytime I'm having starches or fruits in a meal, I'm keeping fats in the basement. And anytime I have a higher fat keto style, or what I would call a deplete style meal, where fats are really high, I would keep starches and fruits in the basement, right? So that's the way I've lived my life. And this lowers your calorie intake, because you're picking leaner cuts of meat when you eat your starches. So you're saving calories. A ribeye is the perfect example, 1,300 calories versus a chicken breast or turkey breast, or even a filet for that matter. It's still half the calories. So you're saving so many calories by following this philosophy, and you're avoiding fats and starches together at the same time. This is what can create more potential fat storage in your body, because we're elevating insulin for extended periods of time while lots of fat is present. Of course, insulin is a storage hormone, so theoretically it can take those fat cells and it's way more likely to store them. At the end of the day, if you're still in a deficit, this ultimately might not matter, but all stuff to consider. Now, the third reason that low-carb diets kind of suck in my opinion, is adherence and sustainability. Again, are you really going to go the rest of your life without eating carbs? UCLA analyzed 31 rigorous studies, randomized control trials, and meta-analysis of dozens of diets. 31 studies later, they concluded 94% of low-carb dieters experience rebound weight gain and gain all or more of their weight back. I have many videos on my handle talking about the Biggest Loser contestants and how their leptin levels were still at 0 a year later because of the cutting carbs, and how they all gained all or more of their weight back as well. And so this is just confirming that, yes, low carb, carnivore, keto, ultra low carb, they can be tools in your tool belt to use, but they're shitty for a lifestyle, in my opinion, because of all of these negative side effects. So before I dive further into our schedule, and hopefully you're getting something out of this. If you are, drop a comment below. If you have questions, drop a comment below. What macros really do to your body. So just a simple kindergarten first base. Fats and carbs are for energy and storage. We don't have a storage space for protein, and protein really is a shitty source of energy. Obviously, your body converts protein into energy through gluconeogenesis, but it's very inefficient, and your body doesn't prefer to do that. It would just prefer to burn the glucose as fuel. So this is where this whole sugar diet comes in. So here's what our schedule is going to look like. We're 16 minutes in, so if you're still hanging in there, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to listen to me. Again, I'm going to keep elaborating on this over the coming weeks to help everybody dial this in. So here's what I've come up with Karen and I to follow. So on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we're going to do low-fat sugar with a protein backload. So it'll be always fats in the basement, right? Sugar all day long with fruits, fruit juices, honey, table sugar, dates, stuff like that. All kinds of stuff that I'm like, oh, hey man, I forgot all about that fruit. So, Karen bought a bunch of grapefruit. I'm going to talk more about that in the coming videos too, because grapefruit is magical in a lot of ways for insulin sensitivity. So this hasn't been talked about with the sugar diet, and I'm excited to kind of incorporate some grapefruit. And I'll share when and how to eat that in future videos. But so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, again, low-fat sugar during the day, and then protein backload at night. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to do a sugar-only fast. And I will probably have one protein shake at the end of the day just because I weigh 190 pounds and I'm very lean and I do not want to sacrifice any muscle tissue. But I'm going to do the fruit juice and the sugar all day long and just have one protein shake at the end of the night. And Tuesdays and Thursdays for that. Going to give that a shot and see how it goes, and I'll keep you posted. And then on Saturday, Sunday, it's just going to be flex or cheat. Not going to binge your stuff. Not going to go out and get freaking hammered all night and do something stupid. But probably going to carb load a little bit more, and I'm probably going to bring in some fattier meats just to have more variety in my diet. And of course, as I bring in those fattier meats in those particular meals, I will still keep carbs, starches, and fruits down in those meals, right? And then if I go to cheat and have like something that's like pizza, which is mostly fat and carbs, I'm only going to do that like for one meal on the weekend, and that's it. I'm not going to binge your stuff. Otherwise, we're really not going to get a good assessment of how this works. So the 3 real-life examples I'll share with you in a second, but I wanted to quickly share before that because that was in yesterday's videos. I don't want to repeat myself. Just a recap of what my day looked like yesterday and the carb sources that you can use if you have over 30 pounds to lose, and if you're leaner, you can add in more starches. So, for example, I'm going to do berries with honey or sugar. I did a dollop of low-fat Greek yogurt, which only had 1 gram of fat in it, right? So just putting some cream in there. 2, 3, 4 hours later, pre-workout, 2 pieces of fruit. As I get leaner, I can turn that into like a bowl of Frosted Flakes with no fat whey protein powder poured over top of it with water, right? It's almost like a vanilla treat. Again, I'm only going to do that as I get leaner. And then my next meal post-workout was lean meat or fish with a healthy starch. So again, I explained the shrimp fried rice with no oil or butter that Karen cooked. And dessert will be low-fat protein shake or pudding, and then with more fruit added in, or again, cereal with whey isolate as I get leaner. Now, or you could do like a fat-free or a low-fat Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Just keep an eye on the fat content. You want to keep it under 30 grams a day if you can, 25 if you're a female. Yesterday, I hit like 33 grams and tried as hard as I could to keep it low. So these fats can sneak in. You have to be careful because that's the key to making this work, is keeping fats in the basement. So if you watched yesterday's video, appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to do that. I know I covered the 3 examples proving why carbs didn't make you fat. So before I jump into that, again, if you have over 30 pounds to lose, we want to stay away from starches. We want all fruits, fruit juices, honey, table sugar, and things like dates, prunes are completely acceptable, right? Don't have to count calories. Eat when you're hungry. Now, if you're leaner, at night, like I'm going to do, you can add in starches. Potatoes, rice, peas, carrots, beets, oats, cereal, protein sources are going to be low-fat meds. So all protein sources are going to be low-fat meds. What are meds? Meat, eggs, dairy, seafood. So always get your meds, I say, in every single meal, unless you're sugar fasting, right? But on this one, it's going to be lean meat. It's going to be egg whites without the yolks. It's going to be low to no fat dairy, and it's going to be seafood. And of course, keeping an eye on things like salmon that are fattier and just making sure it's okay to have salmon. Just make sure you're keeping those carb grams low and in the basement on a daily basis. So 21 minutes in. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, real quick, I'm going to share the 3 examples proving why carbs do not make you fat before I close this out. So the first example is Chris Voigt, okay? Chris Voigt was the head of the Washington State Potato Commission. And when they decided to remove potatoes from the school lunch program, he got pissed and ate 20 potatoes a day for 60 days in a row. That's all he ate, 20 potatoes a day. Didn't fry them, just ate 20 potatoes a day. Cooked them in various different ways, but he didn't cook them in an unhealthy way. Now you can see here on the screen, after 60 days of 20 potatoes a day, he lost over 20 pounds, starting blood glucose 104, ending 94. Cholesterol was 214 down to 147. Triglycerides 135 down to 75. Blood pressure outstanding 112 over 70. I love this example because the dude ain't nothing but 20 potatoes a day. It proves once and for all high carb foods like potatoes, not crap shit in a box, but like potatoes, do not necessarily make us fat. And of course, talking about shit food in a box, if we're talking about things like gummy bears and Sour Patch Kids, and that stuff's allowable on this plan, but I think you should not even consider it until you're peeled. Like, you know, I'm already very, very lean, so I could probably get away with that stuff more than you could. But the secret to those is there's no fat in them. I mean, if we look at Oreos, for example, we take 3 Oreos and you take like 2 cups of strawberries, you got a huge bag of strawberries, and you got 3 little Oreos that are fat and sugar together. Terrible combination where the strawberries are pure sugar with nature's antidote, fiber in there. I'll pull this up real quick. Yesterday's video, I shared this too. Like, this is the perfect example. 100-calorie snack comparisons. I mean, if you look at chips or pretzels or nuts or trail mix or goldfish, and you're doing 100 calories of it, you don't get shit. Look at these huge bowls of fruit, cherries, berries, and watermelon and strawberries. So that's called food portion volumization, and it can make your diet so much less painful because you're constantly full from eating 3-4 times the volume of food that would have the same calories as those 3 Oreos, if that makes sense. Now, second example is the blue zones. So let's see if I can find the blue zones here. Here they are. So the blue zones are the area of the world where more people live to 100 than anywhere else, okay? Most of them have a high-carb diet. I cherry-picked the Okinawas because 67% of their diet is sweet potatoes, 12% is rice. They live longer, have less disease, and are leaner than the rest of the world. I'm sure they're not eating a bunch of crap out of a box that's sugar and fat together. They're probably eating a lot of healthier carbs, and they're probably moving a lot as well. But again, another confirmation that carbs don't necessarily make us fat. Now, the last thing that I want to share is the diabetic study. If I can find it, here it is. So they took 2 groups of diabetics, okay? They had the same exact calories and protein on a daily basis. So protein and calories created equal, okay? Type 2 diabetics, one was high carb, one was low carb. Both groups achieved similar completion rates. Weight loss, blood pressure, glucose, and cholesterol, all identical, proving once and for all that carbs don't make us fat. So if you take away anything from this video at all, just eliminate your carb phobia. If you like this, got something out of it, please do me a favor. Share it for the algorithm. Like it, drop a comment. Let's get the conversation going. Time is our most precious commodity. Always grateful when people take time out of their busy day to listen to me rant. So thank you for watching, and God bless.